Welcome to session 49. In last session, we talked about the easy versus not so easy in two analogies I gave out of my own life experience. And in this session, we're still going to talk about the easy as not versus not so easy, uh, you know, in a different analogy out of my own life experience. Uh, Before, I guess I turned 30, I was pretty much, I guess, a very spontaneous type. And I never would believe if people tell me that I would become someone very technical, engineer type. I would never believe because I was such an artist type, or people say in America, artsy. And it is very difficult to imagine some artist become somebody so technical. And I don't want to offend anyone, but that a lot of time being perceived as boring. So anyway, I never would believe that I would become somebody technical, right? My father, by profession, by training, by professional practice, he before he retired, he had always been very technical, and he expected me to become someone, technical. And so we had a big argument about the academic major I would choose for my high education when I had the opportunity eventually at the end of the radical Chinese communism practice. So I did not want to be somebody technical. So I picked Maritime Academy. And it would be funny if you find out why my motivation, going for the Maritime Academy, because I wanted to be a poet or a novel writer. After traveling around the world, with all that exposure to different culture and all that, and then I would have a lot to write about, right? So I went for a seagull major, and as it turned out, when I show up at the academy, they actually placed me in a shore management major because my short side disqualified myself for seagull major. So anyway, um, still, my training had nothing to do with anything technical. But then, as I mentioned in a previous session, I have hopped between different industries. And so when I eventually, migrated into IT industry, I had to learn fast. And there was no time for me to take any academic training. So I pretty much just, taught myself. And so I was reading about, a lot of the textbooks from the education institutions for the IT major students, and even more trade journals. So I pretty much just educated myself that way, and I, between the time I was in my early 30s and all the way to I was in my early 40s, I basically eventually got used to reading a textbook a little over 100 pages within 16 hours and remember most part of it. So was it easy? I never perceived that was easy, but hey, I handled it. And eventually I was, a few years later, I started to give technical seminars on the, technical trend of the emerging technologies to the people who received the technical training and had at least 2 decades of technical practice in the professions. I did not ever imagine I would be able to do that, but I did. I did. Very technical. So when it comes to this part, I guess the meaning of difficult and not so difficult, a lot of it is still, perceived or, being told by others. I guess for this session, what I'm really trying to say is do not limit yourself by that perception, either said by yourself or said by others, because I personally surprise myself in a nice way. You know, I never ever imagined I could become somebody technical. But of course, everything comes with the trade. Once you become a technical person, your art actually is going to show that, okay? It will become more logical. I'm not even sure that's a positive thing, because I don't want to insult anyone, but I don't want my art to look like an engineer's artwork. No. But hey, the way of thinking certainly change. Okay, your logic becomes very logical. Okay, remember at the beginning of this video series, I talked about, there's certain things you just feel by heart, and other things very scientific. Well, here's the thing: when you become more, I guess, technical, you really try to regain all that, capability and a capacity to feel with your heart. Okay, come on, just spontaneously. You can't really, put your finger on it and explain, logically what. You can't, because that's art, right? So I don't know. It just, for me, I guess the whole point of this analogy is do whatever you can do only to test your own limit. So difficult or easy is all comparative, right? But when we're on this subject, I want to mention what I mentioned before, and to repeat a little bit again here is there are certain things called smart, which is basically referring to you pick up things faster. But then there's another thing that's called wisdom, which basically apply the knowledge you, I guess, obtained widely, almost everywhere, and that's being wise. So the Taoism teaching here is about getting you to become wiser. Smarter, that's pretty much, God-given, or whatever you say. I know there's certain books, the title is How to Become Smarter. And I'm like, okay, you can read it and become smarter. That's very interesting. But you can actually read and get wiser. That part, I totally agree. And that's why I guess I'm doing this video series and share with everybody about the Taoism teaching to get wiser. So that is the analogy, basically, to tell you do not accept whatever people tell you is more difficult or easier, because you don't know until you find out, because you are not anyone else. You are yourself. And let's say, here's another analogy, right? My Chinese ink brush painting. My father had his training, okay, very professional and traditional Chinese ink brush painting that his father paid a lot of money for. So when he, at the beginning, look at my earlier works of ink brush painting, immediately he could tell, you don't have the kung fu, okay? The techniques, the brush strokes, they're not right. You need to copy the, that's how typically the Chinese will learn, start by copying. You need to copy those, things published in books, the basic techniques. And I'm like, nope, I don't want to do that, because I'm going to create my own. And of course, my father did not believe me. But then, 2 years later, he looked at my works, that, the techniques I developed myself, and then he's going, wow, that is pretty good. That is pretty good. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is, you don't take other people's words for it, difficult or easy. Find out yourself by actually doing it. And you can actually surprise yourself. Of course, I'm not talking about it being cocky, that. But, hey, if you do not find out yourself by actually doing it, you might, miss out a lot of things that you would regret later. Because uh, here they say, join the U.S. Army, be all you can be. I don't want to offend the U.S. Army, but hey, we don't really necessarily have to join the Army to be, whatever we can be. I mean, right here, we got a lot of chances, right? This is the land of opportunity, right? Only the sky is the limit. So try out. And this is exactly why I refuse to believe when people tell me, oh, this is very difficult. Of course, hey, if you tell me, go learn the Chinese martial art in 10 years, oh, I'm going to tell you, no way, not even 100 years, right? Not for me, no. Or if you say, hey, go learn the, violin. It's not like I didn't. I did when I was, much, much younger, and I gave up because I couldn't stand that sound came out of the instrument that I made, myself. I guess we were saying this is kind of like softly killing, and that was a lot for my neighbors to endure. So I dropped, right? Of course, I have my friends. They are very, very good, and they're famous violinists, or say piano. Okay, maybe eventually my father started learning piano at age 72. So maybe when I get a little older, I will pick that up too, but not in a way that is professionally, that serious. No. But of course, so I guess what I'm just saying is more difficult, but somehow easier. It doesn't matter. What's the purpose, right? So if you're trying to, I guess, to compete against somebody, that's totally different story. But if you want to be a complete person, living a full life, why not just try out? Who cares about it? More difficult or so easy? It doesn't matter. Just give it a shot. And so that's what I want to say. And this session is pretty short, and I will just drop here. So until next one, ciao.